Okay, this section is 10.2. It has to do with personal loans and a simple interest. Starts out simple, gets a little bit more complicated. Okay, so the beginning part is just some definitions. The amount of credit extended or the principal of the loan and the interest rate that you obtain depend on the assurance that you can give the lender that you'll be able to repay the loan. In other words, security or collateral is anything of value pledged by the borrower that the lender may sell or keep if the borrower does not repay the loan, like your house. A personal note is a document or agreement that states the terms and conditions of the loan. Bankers sometimes grant loans without security, but they require the signature of one or more other persons called cosigners, which guarantee the loan will be paid. Okay, so this is really what the crux of this section is about. Interest. Interest is the money the borrower pays to use the lender's money. Simple interest, which is what we're going to do in this section, is based on the entire amount of the loan for the total period of the loan. And this is the formula. So the interest is equal to principal times the rate as a decimal times time. And the interest rate and the time have to be in the same, whether it be days, months, or years. So you might have to change the time based on what the interest rate is based on. So ordinary interest, the most common of simple interest, is called ordinary interest. For computing ordinary interest, use the banker's rule, which states each month has 30 days and a year has 360 days. On the due date of a simple interest note, the borrower must repay the principal plus the interest. So example 1, the new roof loan. Sherry needs to borrow $6,200 to replace the roof on her home from her credit union. She's going to obtain a 30-month she's going to get a 30-month loan, and the annual interest rate, okay, so this is in months and this is in annual, so that's why we're going to have to change those. Calculate the simple interest that is charged on the loan. Okay, so the formula was the interest equals the principal times the rate times the time. Okay, so the principal amount that she was going to borrow was $6,200. The rate was 5.75, so it was 5.75%. So as a decimal, it's 0.0575. Because this is annual and the time was 30 months, we have to change 30 months into years, so we divided 30 by 12, and that comes out to be 2.5. So these two things have to be in the same rate. So this is annually, so that has to be annually. One can't be months and the other annually. So then you're going to multiply those all together, and that's going to give you $891.25 is going to be her interest that she has to pay on that loan. So determine the amount, the principal plus the interest she'll pay when it's due. So you would just add $6,200 plus the $891 to get how much she would have to pay. Okay, so Philip agrees to lend $850 to his friend Joe to help Joe travel to Cincinnati to attend a family wedding. 9 months later, Joe repaid $850 plus 51 interest. What was the annual rate Joe paid to Philip? Okay, so we're still going to use that formula, interest equals principal times rate times time. But this time we know what the interest was. It was $51. The principal was $850. We don't know what the rate is, so I'm going to put an X here. And the time, because it's an annual rate and this is in months, again, I'm going to do 9/12 to change that into years. So this was 0.75. So I'm going to multiply 850 times 0.75. So 850 times 0.75 and that gives me 637.5. So 637.5 x, that's an x. So now I'm going to divide by 635.5, 637.5, and I've got, so I'll show you what I did here. So I took 51 divided by 637.5, and that, because we want an interest rate, we're going to multiply it by 100, and that's going to give 8. So what was the annual rate? Was 8%. Okay, so to obtain money for new eyeglasses, Gilbert decides to pawn his trumpet. Gilbert borrows $240, and after 30 days, he gets his trumpet back by paying $288. What was the annual interest rate? So let's figure out how much interest he paid. He paid $288. It was $240, so he paid $48 in interest by subtracting. So he paid $48. The principal was $240. The rate, again, is what we want to find out, so I'm going to put an X there. And then, again, this is 30 days, and we want annual. So there's 360 days in a year, according to the banker's rule. So we do 30 divided by 360. So let's just see what that comes out to be. 30 divided by, so in all of these, if you want to do days, you're going to use 360. So now my calculator, if I hit math, enter, will give it to me as a fraction, which is 1/12. So I'm going to use 1/12 there. So I do 240 times 1/12. I have the 240 there, so all I have to do is hit times 240. That's why it's really nice to have a nice calculator. It makes life a lot easier. So that's 20. So now I have 48 equals 20x. I'm going to divide by 20. So 48 divided by 20 times 100. So he had to pay 240% interest rate. That's what happens in a pawn shop. 240%. Okay. Discount notes. In another type of loan, the discount note, the interest is paid at the time the borrower receives the loan. The interest charged in advance is called the bank discount. So you can pay the interest right up front. So this one is figuring out the true interest rate if she paid the interest up front. So she took a $500 loan at 10% discount for a period of 3 months. The interest rate she must pay to the bank on the date she receives the loan. Okay, so the interest would be the interest. Well, let me go to the next page. So the interest equals principal times rate times time. So the principal was 500. The rate was 10%, and the time, if I go back, was 3 months. And again, the 10% is yearly. So I'm going to do 3 divided by 12, so I can get it as for the year, and that's 1/4. So if you multiply those all together, that comes out to be $12.50. So that's how much interest she pays when she takes out the loan. So Part B says the net amount of money she receives. Okay, so if she paid that out right at when she got the loan, then they gave her 500 minus the 1250. They only gave her $487.50 because they made her pay the interest right up front. So now Part C says, what's the actual interest rate? So in other words, if we work backwards, is what they're saying. They're saying that they paid an interest of $12.50. She paid $12.50. The principal, because she only got 487.50, what was the R? And then again, this was 1/4. So because she only got $487.50, what actual was the rate that she paid? So this comes out to be 1250. This is 121.875. And I put an R there this time just so you can see it better. This comes out to be 0.1025 equals R if you divide each side by the 121. So again, you'd multiply by 100. So really it came out to be 10.3 as opposed to the 10 you're paying the interest rate up front. I'm going to do one more question and then I'm going to stop right here. Okay. Roddy owns a snow blowing machine. He needs to purchase a new plow for the front of his truck, and it's $1,600. The equipment dealership has two payment plans. So option one is he's going to pay $800 down and then pay $850 in 6 months. Option two, so this is going to be one. Option two, he's going to pay $400 as a down payment and then $1,380 in 9 months. Which one has the better annual interest rate? So this one, if he had to pay $850, he paid $800 and now he paid $850. So his interest that he paid was $50. He paid $800. What was that rate? And he paid it in 6 months, so that's half a year. So this would be 0.5. So this is 50 equals 400 R. R comes out to be, when you divide by 400, so over here R was 12.5%. Okay, so for the second one, he had to pay $1,380, and the balance, if he it was 600, and at first he paid 400. So his balance should have been 1,200, but he paid 1,380. So he paid 180 interest this time on the 1,200, the rate. And this time he did it in 9 months. So this would be 9 over 12, which comes out to be 3/4. So when you multiply that, you get 900, and you divide, you get 0.2, so that comes out to be 20%. So the option one was a much better interest rate. Okay, and I'm going to stop right there for the first half of this section.